Over the course of my YouTube career, I've often been asked a question something along the lines of this. Hey MathWiz, I'm interested in making my own WWE Games Universe mode for YouTube. Do you have any tips or advice for starting out? For a while, I really never put much thought into a technical response. Just be yourself, have fun, and an audience will eventually come your way. That was roughly the general theme of my replies. And while I'm not wrong in saying that having fun will gain you a worthwhile fanbase over time, that's not really much to build off of either. If you want to create a successful project in any medium, there has to be some sort of structure to it, even if that structure is that there is no structure. That's why, in this video, I'd like to take another crack at answering the question, how do I create a successful universe mode on YouTube? The starting point on this subject is pretty self-explanatory. To make a successful anything, you first have to make something. Now before you run off and start recording, you have to do some planning beforehand. First of all, what kind of a series do you want to make? Is it going to be comical or serious? Do you simply want to play the game as a gaming commentator? Or do you want to form your own immersive world? Are you okay with botches and glitches in the gameplay? Or do you want to create the atmosphere of a real live match? Will the gameplay be simulation style or user controlled? Before you even think about pressing that record button, you need to have answers to all of these questions first. As a viewer, I don't want to be fully immersed in a competitive match and suddenly see Seth Rollins floating in midair unless I've come to expect that from you. I'm not saying that you can't have comedic aspects in a serious video or serious aspects in a comedic video, but you need to establish from the outset a clear tone as to what your series is seeking to accomplish. Now you might be thinking, but MathWiz, when your universe began a few years ago, you didn't have any direction. You've said so yourself that you had no idea what you were doing. Well, you'd be correct, and that's precisely why I openly bury my early work as much as I do. Even with my inexperience and lack of direction, however, I still understood the type of series I was trying to produce. I did just about everything wrong in executing it, but I knew from the outset that I wanted to create an alternate version of the WWE. If your end goal is to create an environment that feels like an actual wrestling show instead of a video game, similar to Delzinski's SNME or Forever a Movement, then you can't suddenly shout, "Brock Lesnar has a stored finisher!" or "Dean Ambrose is out of reversals." Not once do these creators acknowledge the fact that their matches are in a video game, and that suspension of disbelief is what establishes what I'll call an entertainment series. A gaming series, one that recognizes in-universe that the action is taking place in a video game, doesn't need the suspension of disbelief. Before you record any gameplay, ask yourself, what kind of an audience do I want to have? While laying the foundation beforehand is a necessity, the production process is the most important factor in a successful series. Like I said earlier, I struggled with this aspect in WWE 13, and that's why I'd never recommend those videos to anyone. You have to be willing to try some decent editing, whether you want a gaming series or an entertainment series. The more you edit, the easier it will be, and you'll eventually settle into your own style. Just be patient. I've been making videos on this channel for 4 years, and while I've developed several different styles of editing during that time, I feel that I only just settled into a distinct style that I'm proud of this past year. Don't be afraid to try new techniques either. In the beginning, my pay-per-view promotional videos consisted of an assortment of clips with maybe a basic transition or two. At the end of WWE 2K14, however, I started using them to experiment with different visual effects, and over time, I gradually gained more and more effects that I could comfortably use in a promo. As a result, something that I might have failed on before can wind up looking like this. If you're going for an entertainment universe mode though, I do feel that there's an extra set of standards that you have to meet. Whereas a gaming series could be open to some wackier editing styles, the former is going to be limited to a much more down-to-earth pacing. The gameplay changes in the newer games have made it a lot easier to replicate a realistic match, but there are certain things like glitches or botches that you can't really avoid. Botches could be a bit easier to work around as long as you play off of it well, but there are certain botches as well as glitches that will either break the immersion you're trying to establish, or perhaps ruin a spot you're attempting to execute. Depending on how much of a perfectionist you are, you might have to redo a single spot several times until you get it right, but that's only half the battle. At the end of the day, you want your resulting product to flow smoothly, as if the botch never happened. At the end of the day, you want your... oh my god. Once the highlight reel returns in WWE 2K17, it'll be much easier to edit these out with a simple camera cut, but you can also use a crowd cutaway or zoom to pretend it never happened. Sometimes, if you get really lucky, the game cuts to a different angle for you, and that allows you to seamlessly piece the two clips together without much trouble. There's more detail I could go into with this, but this isn't a how to edit video. What I said could be a tad biased towards what I personally look for in a universe mode, but honestly, as long as you understand your goals for your series, you should have an idea as to how in-depth you want your editing to be. I didn't touch on graphics either, as those also vary from person to person, and there are other aspects of the video besides just the match to think about. But I don't want to delve too deep into specifics with this. The next section will be slightly biased as well, but certain aspects vary from person to person also, so keep that in mind. While the production value is, in my opinion, the biggest factor in the quality of a universe mode, that isn't the be-all end-all. Ultimately, one of wrestling's biggest attractions is the storytelling side of it, and you can't tell a story without superstars to drive it forward. Whether you use the WWE roster, the TNA roster, a created wrestler roster, or any other type of roster, you absolutely need to utilize your superstars effectively. Don't overextend yourself with too many competitors. Keep your roster manageable, and on a similar token, don't try to push everybody, because if you do that, you're essentially burying everybody. I'm pretty upset that I never gave Damien Sandow a chance in my series, but I understand that I just didn't have room for him in my plans. Then again, I pushed Ryback to the top and he got fired, so... My point is that you can't give everybody the spotlight at once, so try to understand who your main eventers are and who your jobbers are. As well as that, avoid booking matches for the sake of booking matches. Every match should have a purpose, even if that purpose is just to get some attention on two underdeveloped guys you might want to push. The last thing you want to do is book John Cena and CM Punk into a Hell in a Cell match for the WWE title, only to realize afterwards, oh crap, I haven't built any strong contenders for Punk's title, who does he face now? Then again, you may have months of booking planned in advance only for your world champion to get fired halfway through, leaving you in a state of confusion for weeks on end until you come up with a new plan, knowing fully well that the new plan is nowhere near as good as the old one.
I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all.
Thanks for watching to this point. Was this video helpful in any way? Do you plan on making your own universe mode in the future? And if you already have one, do you think there was anything that I missed? Special thanks to I'm Skino for helping me with the script. He makes awesome WWE content, including his own WWE Universe mode, a SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 GM mode, WWE Crush Hour, and more. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. Like I said in the beginning, this is one of my most frequently asked questions, and since I had been thinking about doing a Behind the Universe episode on how I make my videos, it gave me this idea to go more in depth. Do you think I went too in depth, or perhaps I wasn't detailed enough? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, and until the next video that I make, keep on YouTubing.